everyone. Welcome to TIRA's first Global Mobility Matters interview. This is our first interview in a series of discussions with global mobility and HR leaders on behalf of TIRA. TIRA, the International Relocation Associates, has been in business for over 40 years and is an aligned network of leading mobility service providers that provide local solutions to global challenges with over 50 members. I am your host, Susan Ginsberg. Like I said, this is our first in a series of discussions with global mobility leaders who will be sharing their insights and perspectives on the future of work and global mobility. Again, welcome Becky Woods, who's the Senior Director of Global Mobility for ADP.
Great to be with you today.
Thank you for joining us. Becky, would you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Sure. I've been at ADP almost 7 years and in the global mobility industry almost 17 years. I myself have lived and worked in multiple countries, including Spain, Mexico, and Costa Rica, and speak both English and Spanish. And I really enjoy working in the field of mobility.
Wonderful. Well, you're certainly a very well-respected global mobility professional, and we're delighted that you're joining us today. So let's get right into the questions. We're living in uncertain times where change is the only constant. In your view, Becky, what does the future of work look like, and how can global mobility adapt to this ongoing change and remain relevant?
It's a great question, Susan. And, I think since COVID, the pendulum really shifted over from the employer to the employee. And I think some things have stuck with the war for talent and how do we attract and retain the right candidates and the right employees. There is such a focus now on inclusion and making sure that everyone feels that they can bring their authentic selves to work. I know I read a study recently that said assignees have even more focus on their families and mental well-being. So I think corporations, as they continue to focus through that lens, it then has that trickle-down effect to the global mobility team and how are we supporting our associates during these very critical and moments that matter in a person's life, right? Moving is one of the most stressful things anyone can undertake. So I think what we're seeing and we'll continue to see are these really kind of bespoke packages and this kind of what I call hyper customization of what does each individual need? How can they feel most supported as we're helping them through the relocation transition? Core Flex has always been very popular. I think it continues to be really popular. Managed lump sum programs continue to grow. But then also the assignment types, right? We've seen the shift away from the traditional long-term expat assignment to more commuting or extended business traveler or the global remote workers. And again, I think that will continue in the future.
Great, Becky. And I think everything you talked about relating to well-being and wellness relates back to a key important corporate retention and development strategy because so many of us are working remotely or in a hybrid work situation. This keeps people connected, connected to their company, part of a company ecosystem, which we'll talk about in a moment, as well as in this, hypersensitive war for talent. This is a strategy that helps companies attract and retain talent.
Yes, I agree.
Fantastic. So next we're going to talk about ecosystems and a question about ecosystems. So getting to the second question, Becky, the emergence of ecosystems has become an increasingly important means of collaborating with companies today. How do you view the role of service providers in the talent mobility ecosystem?
Service providers have a very interesting lens, which is very different from those sitting in the corporate seat, where I only know what my company is doing. But since service providers service many different clients from different geographies, different industries, different sizes, they all can look and see and anticipate possible trends that may be coming in the future. And I think where they can really add a lot of value is when they can communicate those trends out to the broader marketplace to say, hey, we're starting to see this. This could potentially impact you. You might want to start prepare your program in case it's coming your way. So I think the proactivity and communications around, like I said, things like trends, things like where are they seeing gaps, and have they put in place solutions to close those gaps, as well as what is needed out in the marketplace. Are there new technologies that they're working on? Are there new providers in the space? So really, that's how they can add a lot of value, is around that educational piece. And then specifically in terms of a, a program, where I think service providers can also add a lot of value is to give specific feedback on a global mobility manager's program. And again, it goes back to communications. Are they proactively saying, hey, we saw in the last month you had 20 exceptions in this one area. Have you thought about tweaking your policy? Or there's a new tax regulation coming out in this country. You operate a lot in that country. Have you considered how this could impact your program? Or this particular associate is having challenges in this area. We want to raise it up so you can help us address it. So I think that continued proactive communication is really helpful in order to strengthen the entire program.
Excellent, Becky. And I love how you provided some concrete examples as to how service providers can really ratchet up, if you will, the level of consultation and consultative guidance that they provide to their client, their RMC, whether they're working directly or not with a someone such as yourself, a global mobility leader, which really adds value to what they're bringing not only to the clients, such as yourself, but also ultimately the end user, and that's the transferee. So great advice. So moving on to technology, and you mentioned technology in response to the last two questions. This is a question related specifically to technology, Becky. So reflect on the use of digital and generative AI systems in global mobility. How does technology play a factor in corporate and HR mobility? And what do you expect of your service providers?
So I've seen, even in the last 5 years, such a push to hear how can corporations leverage technology in their global mobility programs. And in the beginning, it was things like APIs and how can we have the data move more seamlessly and eliminate some of that manual work to free up our time for more strategic value add work. Then it was chatbots. And I even recently saw a demo of a corporation who has deployed a chatbot to help support their global mobility program. And now, of course, we're on to the ChatGPT discussions. And, can you use ChatGPT to help you draft an RFP or draft a letter of assignment? And how can it be used there within, your certain company policy parameters? I think that the continued pressure on the global mobility corporates are that many times it can be hard to either get funding in order to be able to fund certain technology initiatives and get them off the ground, or expertise. So some companies have a robust HR IT support team that the global mobility team can lean on, but many corporations don't have that support for the global mobility department. And so in that case, we really do need to rely on our service providers in terms of what types of solutions can they bring so that we can, again, take advantage of the technology that can help support our programs.
That's been insightful. I think, this is a world that we're all testing. Some of us are more adept than others, but I think embracing generative AI, sharing best practices, what's working and not working, will just make us that much more valuable as an industry and ensure that companies, each and every company, becomes that much more productive, cost effective, and can respond to you as an HR mobility leader in real time with the data and analytics that you're looking for. So thank you again for your wonderful insight. You always provide such great guidance, and I love your specific examples. Thank you to everyone who's participated. Look for this on our YouTube channel, and we'll see you again. Thank you again, Becky.
Thank you.